for a while, then we'll go on to other things, perhaps. Yes, Rudy.
This is true. I've seen that I'm in a negative state, and I can sense it, or I think I can see it, until someone tells me about it. I either get a shock of some sort, or I might even get angry.
If they tell you about it?
Tell me about it.
Yes.
It's embarrassing. You know, if he knows, he's seen through me.
Yes, because immediately your images of not being a depressed person, of being a happy person, challenged what the man said. Now you're two people and you don't know which you are. You think you're the person who's pretending to be happy, and yet he says you're depressed. How can you which is it? So you don't know who you are. You don't know whether you're a happy person or a depressed person, and you want to choose one or the other because you don't want to be a divided person. You are, but you don't know it. So you want to, get this, you want to feel safe in either one of the states. Either pretending that you're happy, that's okay, I can put on a big act, and I can look forward to something, the dinner, TV show, or something. Or I can take great pleasure in being depressed, as long as I'm something. But if you tell me I'm not happy, that I'm depressed, I begin to get worried because that is my image for now, and I don't know what other image is going to take over to keep me being somebody. But I got it. I got the solution to you finding me out. I'll get mad. Now I've got a third one. Now, I've always got an I ready, an identity ready, an escape ready, so that all times I know who I am. Because the greatest fear of any human being, going right around the room, any human being, is to not know who you are. But you're going to have to see this fear in order to give up all images and not be anyone at all in which there is no fear. Was that Gordon? Yes.
So only something that's not Gordon and his fear can see the state.
Yes. Standing aside and watching it. Yes. That's the beginning, and there's much more than that. Murray.
Then is there a connection? If I see the depression, I can't be depressed.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. This is the seeing is the log in front of the truck of depression that causes a smash. Yes.
And the part that really sees this is the prince.
Yes. Yes.
So we get confused in feeling it, thinking we're seeing it.
Yes, this is what the lady brought up. When you're feeling depression, you are certainly not seeing it. You are suffering from it. And suffering has no insight at all. Do you know that suffering is total stupidity?
Right.
When any of us are in a state of pain, of agony, of jealousy, or anything, we're in a state of stupidity. Don't you see that is what ignorance and stupidity is? A state of unknowing, of not understanding what we are all about or what life is all about, and not understanding these principles? That's what stupidity is. Now, I want someone besides the same people ask questions. I'll take Murray, and then that's the last one for a while. Murray, go ahead.
A connection, though, I was trying to... Then that connects with catching the devil behind the 12th tree.
Yes, sure. Catching him early before he grabs you. Once he grabs you, you can't see him. The reason you can't see the devil once he grabs you is because you're hugging each other, and that makes a certain oneness, and this oneness can't see outside of itself. Rod.
Can I see something in the real sense?
Will stop, please? I want all questions about this topic to cease. Change the topic. Don't say a word and then ask me to discuss it, please.
I was in a state a couple of weeks ago, and the only way I could describe it was say, hot dog. That's all the mind could say.
All right. I am at loss for an answer, I admit. Yes, Doug.
Vernon, coming back to your last meeting, you said something very necessary, which I never felt it has been said that way, was to start growing up in beginning to taking on our responsibilities.
Yes.
It was something so missing in my life, and I want to thank you for it.
Yes. We've got to grow up. And I'll add a little thought to that. One part of growing up is to not be embarrassed, to be made nervous by the bad behavior, the foolish behavior of other human beings. That includes ourselves, of course. If a situation is too much for us and we fall down underneath it, someone's childish behavior, can't we just look and see that we were caught by their childishness in our reaction to it? And just seeing that would be standing outside of it and say, you know, that childish behavior set off the child in me. Can I not see that I've got to catch that type of devil creeping up on me and say, I'm going to have a mature reaction to this. And the mature reaction is not to be embarrassed, and I want to stress that word because I know embarrassment is not a popular topic. There's many things we're embarrassed by. And you watch how often you were embarrassed by other people's behavior, including your own too, of course, but just for now, other people's behavior. Your son has bad manners, or your elderly father is a blabbermouth who bores everyone, anything at all. Please, let's grow up and be so mature that we're never embarrassed, made nervous by the behavior of anyone. And we won't be if we understand why they do it. They do it because they can't do anything else but that. Don't expect a 5-year-old child to behave any better than a 5-year-old child, or a 5-year-old child emotionally who is 80 years old chronologically. Don't expect them to behave any better than they can. You say to them, look, why don't you behave different? Why don't you behave better? The reason you're saying that is because you want them to behave better in order to make you feel good, to relieve you in some way, to not embarrass you in some way. You're not really concerned with their behavior. You don't care at all about their behavior. All you care is about that they behave in a way that doesn't upset you, make you nervous. So can't we be honest there? That would be the beginning of mature thinking and mature reactions. Go ahead, son.
Did you say to ourselves, I am going to be mature towards this?
That's the first word, yes. Now you're going to have to find out what maturity is. Maturity is certainly not breaking down, is it? Anyone can break down. We're talking about cosmic maturity, of course, and we're not talking about the phony maturity of a person who has been given a certain office, a judge or whatever, where he behaves in a certain formal, stiff manner because that's his stage performance. We're talking about a very flexible maturity that can be at ease with a 5-year-old child or a 90-year-old woman equally. That's at ease in every situation because, and this connects with what you brought up, Jim, because the maturity, the awareness, the self-control is there at the start all the time. It goes into that. It goes into the hospital, and it's not made depressed by what it sees, the poor people's ward and all the old ladies and men laying there. You're not depressed by it. You don't have wrong reactions toward it. And you go outside, and 2 or 3 little children come up, and what time is it, mister? And you don't have a watch, so you smile and say, I don't have a watch, thank you, and you go on your way. No matter what situation you're in, you are in charge. You're not taken over by it because there's no thinking about what should I do, how I should behave. There's no thought saying, how can I shift to this role or that role. There's no emotions taking you over in the hospital ward. Or you're in a completely false situation, and you know you're in a false situation. That friend of yours is being married for the 6th time, and you know it's going to break up a month after he gets married again. But he invites you to the wedding, and you're his friend, and you live next door and all that. So you happen to go to the wedding. You know you're in a false situation. You see all the phony lies of the minister, and we're going to live together happy, and they give the presents and everything going on. But you have no false reaction to that either. You're just, look, you have to do something with your life. Why not go to the wedding? Either that or don't go to the wedding. What difference does it make? But you happen to go to the wedding because you go to the wedding. But you are never in a false position because you're wide awake. And you go up and maybe you kiss the bride even. You find yourself shoved in line, you might as well kiss the bride. Everybody else is. But you'll be the only man in line who kissed the bride consciously. That's right. And then you go out of there, and you know, when you go out of that wedding chapel, which they rented for $50, that included flowers, organ music, and the minister, but you're supposed to give him a tip or something. When you go out of that wedding chapel, you have no idea of what you're going to do next, and you're so happy about it. All those other people who go out of there, you know, their smiles drop, you know, as they go out of the church. Thank heaven that's over. And the smiles, they are miserable because they know what they're going to do next. They're living compulsive lives. Their minds, their feelings, their background, their training, their marriage, their relatives, telling them what they're going to do when they go out of there, and they hate it. They're not free. They're compelled to do things. And they know that they have to do this because they have no choice. When you walk out of that wedding chapel wide awake, you don't care what you do. That's why you do anything. You don't care what you do because you're happy in yourself, whether you now go to the wedding reception or you go home and read a book or you take a walk down the street. You're 100% happy with yourself. The situation has nothing to do with it. Okay, hands, comments. Different people, please, again.
This man you just described also wouldn't have to make judgments on everybody he sees because he wouldn't think that way.
That's right. He wouldn't make comments, for example, on the way out if he was with a friend. What a phony situation that is. That's what you're saying, isn't it? You keep your counsel to yourself because you see that would be false. You get a feeling of superiority. Anyone who would say, you know, that man's been married 6 times and I know this one's going to flop like the other one. Anyone who's, you can know that. You can know that, but if you're getting a feeling of self out of it, you're in as much trouble as he is. You may not get married 6 times, but you may get hateful 6 times that hour. Isn't it nice to know that we can look out at the sick world and listen to this phrase, please. We can look out at that sick world and leave it alone. What's this madness we have, this insanity we have, this compulsion we have to leap into every situation and try to twist it to make us feel a little better. Twisting. Leave it alone. To the degree that you are compelled to disturb the world, to stir it up, to try to change it, to try to improve it, You will be compelled to do the same thing with yourself, which is your constant nervousness and agitation. Yes, please. What's your first name, please? Bernice. Yes, Bernice. Go ahead.
Could you repeat that last phrase you said?
No, I can't repeat it exactly. Someone give it to her.
To the degree that you want to change the sick world is to the degree that you're going to be agitating and confusing yourself.
Thank you, Jim.
To the degree that you try to twist the situation is the degree that you twist yourself.
Ah, very good. That's worth a sentence writing down. Because they are the same thing. My distortion inside merely projects itself outside, and I want to twist you and you and you according to my ideas of how you should behave in order. Of course, it's only concerned with me. I don't care about you. All I care is about that you behave in the way that makes me feel good. I'm so scared and I'm so insecure. And even if I can't do any more than snipe at you. You know what sniping is? You know what sniping is. Shoot you. Snipe at you verbally or mentally or emotionally. If I can't do more than that, that's at least something. You're terrible, therefore I am good. Isn't that nice? Is that an easy way to feel good? You're horrible. You're horrible, therefore the opposite of that is I must be good. So I'm compelled to make you as bad as I can in order to make me to deceive myself into thinking that I'm as good as I would like to imagine I am. But to imagine that I'm good is very bad. And I'll have to spend 24 hours a day trying to prove my goodness. And I won't be able to succeed.
I watched a very interesting state develop in work. Somebody mentioned about some very young girl had gotten a top job of making $150 a day. And everybody got jealous and talked very bad. Not directly about the girl, but indirectly. When we were young, how hard we had to work. We could never get a job like this, and on and on. And I heard all this, and after a while I found myself in a state of jealousy.
You were?
Yes, in a very odd one, that I was adding up the money, figuring out how much she makes, and I had no business of doing this. But this is how a pattern starts rolling, and everybody falls into it.
Yes. Let's find out for the rest of you if you're still in that horrible earthly trap. You're jealous of someone else who makes more money than you do or has more money than you. Are any of you in that trap? Write down the following sentence, please. The feelings are nervous because the facts are absent. The feelings are nervous because the facts are absent. Little illustration. Remember the last Western story you saw on TV where there was the fort out in the desert, the army fort out in the western prairies there with the soldiers on guard up on the walls. Remember that? How many of you have ever seen a Western movie? Okay, then you've seen this. So there's all these soldiers in the fort, and they're visited by some Eastern dignitaries, I guess that's the word. The railroad has pushed that far, and so all the sophisticated Easterners come in to stay the night. They're visiting, traveling west or something. The senator, the industrious, the railroad builder, and all that. So they come in the fort, and they meet the colonel, of course. He's usually tall, good-looking man, right? Ex-Civil War veteran, usually. And as they're sitting there around, they just come in while the little nervous lady comes up, and she says to the colonel, we've read so much in the Boston newspapers about Indians attacking. How'd you like my accent, Ron? That's the way all my relatives talk. We've heard about Indians massacring us white folk. Now we're south, right? In the fort. So are we safe here? And the colonel says, yes, you're quite safe. Let me assure you, madam, you're quite safe here. And a little later, one of the men comes up, one of the important industrials comes up to the colonel, and he says, we've got off the train and traveled a couple of miles to get here, and we thought we saw smoke signals. Is that my imagination, or that clouds, or the Indians around? We're really worried about it. He says, no, you're perfectly safe from Indians. Let me assure you, everything is all right inside this fort. So a third person comes up and worriedly makes some remark, and he assures the other lady that you're safe here. But he looks around and sees all these 20 or 30 sophisticated Easterners. They're still pretty nervous about it. His assurances don't assure them. So they're going to have a little dinner and little party that night. So he decides to settle the matter once and for all. So they're all sitting around the banquet table, and before they begin to dine, he raps politely on the table for attention, and he stands up in his nice, pretty uniform. And he says, ladies and gentlemen, I understand your nervousness about the fort here, because several of you have come up and made comments, and I've seen others of you standing around nervously worried about it. So let me simply tell you something that you don't understand. You're nervous because you don't have the facts about this fort. So let me fill you in, please. Then I'm sure we can all settle down, have a nice dinner, and have a nice social occasion afterward. So he tells them this fort is, the walls are stout with many thick logs, and it's high, and there's sentries around all the time. And besides, there's always scouts out, and there's patrols out to report. If Indians are within 200 miles, he'd know about it immediately. So let me assure you, please, with all these facts, that as long as you're inside the fort, as long as you're inside here, there's no way that an Indian can attack you. You see, when you read all those Boston and Chattanooga and Wichita newspapers about Indian attacks, your imagination went to work wildly, and you brought your imagination here. But I'm trying to tell you, as long as you're inside this fort, then your imagination of being attacked by Indians is invalid. It's very foolish. You could be coming here, as I wish you would, coming here just to have a good, safe time. You could be seated here around this table as you are now, completely relaxed, without even thinking about where you are, because you know that you're in a safe place. Now, I've given you all these facts, and what I can do is give them to you and tell you to try to understand them if you want to go out and explore the walls of the fort and talk to a couple of the guards around and look out for yourself and see how we've even cut all the brush back for 500 yards in every direction so no Indians can sneak up. See, we think about these things. We're very scientific about it. So, as the commander of this fort, I will assure you once more, you're perfectly and absolutely safe for as long as you want to stay here, and of course overnight. Just stay inside and you'll be all right. Your nervousness is caused by not having the facts. Now, I've given them to you. If you'll accept the facts, I assure you that your inner condition will change, and you'll enjoy your dinner much, much better. This is what truth is trying to tell us, and we've been trying to discover it here. But you see, the imagination taken over, carried over from your past memories, your past bad experiences, which you're quite sure still are valid, which you're quite sure can sneak inside and get you. They're still working hard. This means one thing. This means you really, really haven't yet entered the fort of this higher insight, this higher understanding, because I know that once you're inside it, you know you're safe. Do you know that all of you here felt endangered all day long?
Right.
You felt endangered when the boss looked at you that way. You felt endangered when your own thoughts came up. You felt endangered when you said to yourself, this is the last straw, huh? Something came up, the nagging part, this and you had better watch yourself the next time an Indian grabs you outside the fort, the Indian being in the form of you saying, this is the last straw. You know what that means? That means that all this other time that this incident or that incident or a series of incidents happened, you were pretending to be patient. You were pretending to understand. You were faking composure. And you were simply suppressing it because for one reason or another you would have got punished. The boss would have fired you, or you would have lost your image of being a nice person. So you would have suffered some loss. This means all this was fakery. It's going on. But finally the pressure got too bad, and you said to yourself, you still maybe didn't say it outwardly, you said, this is the last straw. Let me tell you, I want you to catch that Indian saying, this is the last straw, this is the last time this is going to happen. Can't you see that you were suppressing it all these years, all these days, and it just got too much for you? You catch that instant. If you catch that instant, that will be a long leap toward the inside of the fort. You're outside it, otherwise it couldn't happen to you. But if you catch that, you will see that you're in the wrong place. The reason any of us are uncomfortable, nervous, is because we're outside the fort. We dropped the illustration. It can only carry us so far in explaining this. But now we shift outside a little bit. It's because you're outside of where you really should be, where you can be, and where we're getting to be in this class. Where I don't know what can touch you. I know something for every one of you that you don't know for yourself. I know that nothing can touch you, but you don't know that, and that's why you're touched, because you believe in the Indians. You've read the newspapers in Boston or Chattanooga or Wichita, and you believe the headlines, and they activated associations since you were a little child and saw the Saturday afternoon matinee with Tom Mix. And the scene, Tom Mix, Gene Autry, Roy Rogers for some of you younger ones.
Johnny Nightbread.
And that activated your fear. Oh, congratulations, Joan. That activated the fear again, and you thought it was happening now. It is happening now only because you believe in it now. Why do you believe in it now? Why do you think about it? When you don't think about it by real magic, you'll be inside the fort and you will know you're safe. And then you will yawn. You will stand up on the wall, or parapet. What do they call the thing behind the wall? Walkway, I guess, behind and you'll look out. And there can be 10,000 Indians outside there, and you look at them, and you yawn a little bit. And their hoots and their arrows can't touch you. You're inside and safe. But you don't. You have not experienced what I'm talking about. But I'm giving you the facts as the colonel, giving you the facts about it and telling you that when you're inside, you're safe. Because you're safe from your own emotions. You're safe from your own imagination, your own flights of fancy. You're saved from your own lostness. There's no need for you to be scared at all about anything. I said there's no need for any of you in this room to ever again be scared over anything. Anything that is in your life now, anything that is happening to you, anything that's happened in the past or the future. I know that you are safe right now. When you know that you're safe, when you have the facts, then the nervous feelings will fall away of themselves and you will feel safe. You can't feel safe and nervous at the same time, obviously. You have chosen to be nervous. You've chosen the agitation of nervousness because it's feeding something wrong inside of you. You can't enjoy the banquet, whatever the banquet might be, as long as you're afraid of the Indians. Would you like to enjoy going to that wedding, or taking the walk all alone, or reading the book, or earning your living, or being fired and not having any money? Wouldn't you like to enjoy anything and everything that happens to you? I assure you that it is quite possible. I assure you that who you really are is taken care of. Because, please absorb what I'm going to say next. Because God always takes care of himself. Because God always takes care of his own. I and my Father are one. Therefore, I am safe in that cosmic home. I am safe without the I. I don't have to say I'm safe. I know I'm safe without thinking it, saying it. And then the feeling is right. The feeling of safety is there because it's the feeling that is not of the person who read the headlines and then got scared, then got set off, then got touched off. I know that all of you are taken care of. You don't know it. That's why you're worried about finances. That's why you're worried about your future, about your health. That's why you're worried about your human relations, because you don't yet know that everything is already taken care of. Look, when the visitors came to that fort, it was already there. It was built. It was solid. It was already there for them. Truth, reality is already here for us, but we're standing outside. Get inside and you'll see that it's always been there, and you will see that any time you wanted to walk to that gate, it would open for you and let you in. But you don't want in. You prefer to be lost because this is all you know and you won't lose. You refuse to lose the false rewards you get out of feeling lost. When you're lost, you're feeling that, aren't you? You're feeling nervous. This is what you value. Because then you can say, I'm being attacked by Indians. The Indians cause me pain. Get rid of the Indians, and there'll be no one there to get rid of pain, which is the breaking down of the opposites. There is no one inside the fort who can be afraid of the Indians. There's no one there who can fear the Indians, because you are the Indian. There's no savage Indian but you or me. You'd better tell me who you worship, as if I don't already know. You know who you're worshiping? You're worshiping the Indian chief. You're worshiping the Indian chief, the head of all those warriors out there. That's who you're worshiping. And the reason you're worshiping him is because you are one of him. You're one of the braves in his tribe, and you like that. You belong to the Mohawks or the Sioux. That's your tribe, and you're very proud of your tribe, aren't you? The Mohicans. You're very proud of your tribe, and you're proud of the head of the tribe, whoever he may be. The Indians can't enter the fort. Take off your war paint and your headdress and drop your tomahawk and your bow and arrow and become a human being instead of an Indian, and the door will open. No Indians, no savage warriors allowed inside the fort. God doesn't recognize Indian tribes. He only recognizes human beings who are tired of their war dances and their tomahawks. He can begin to recognize a warrior who will drop those, and few will drop them. The banquet is ready inside the fort. You want to come? I invite you in. If you're willing to drop the tomahawk, you can't be a warrior anymore, ladies, gentlemen. There's no profit in being a warrior. There's only agony. There's only fear. I will tell you that there's nothing to fear when you see that you're not in reality a warrior with a tomahawk. You think so. Why don't you come with me, dropping the tomahawk, then the bows and arrows, then take off the headdress, and start walking toward the fort and eventually inside, so that you see that when you're inside, that all that outside was foolishness, that it gave you excitement and gave you an identity and gave you someone to hate. Didn't it? Gave you someone to hate. But it's only when you're inside looking out that you can see the foolishness of it. We can only take off one little feather at a time out of our war bonnet, but let's do that. Maybe just one tonight, till it's all gone. The whole business is gone. And then you'll see something, and you'll look back, you'll look outside, and you'll understand all those Indians in the war dance outside. You'll understand why they do it, because you now know why you did it. And you won't have any hatred for them. You won't have any superiority. You'll have authentic compassion toward them, not a compassion that goes out there to join them, most certainly, but a compassion that simply understands that they can't do anything but what they do because of their present internal warring state. And your understanding is love itself. You know where you have been, and you now know without self-deception where you are now. And that state is love. Now you can wander around the fort anywhere you like. You can have the banquet. You can ride a horse. You can just look out at the scenery. You can do anything you want, and all is well because you're inside. And all will always be well. Once you're inside, you'll never go out again. Nothing can lure you outside again. That's why all is well for eternity once you enter inside. And you know it all is well forevermore. And we'll take a break, 10, 12 minutes. Other things. Might want to write this down, and let's see what happens. I'll ask for hands on this. Gold bores a goat. Gold bores a goat. I wasn't looking at you, Dauphine. What's your reaction?
Pardon?
It isn't to his advantage. He has no idea what it is.
Ah. Any other? Sure. How can it's so simple?
Why should a goat think about gold?
There's nothing in common with it. There's nothing in him that reacts to gold, is there? Gold bores a goat. Jean. Oh. One at a time, please. Go ahead, Jean.
It doesn't feed him in any of the ways.
What'd you say?
It doesn't feed him in any of
Yeah. It's not what do goats eat? Goat food. Yeah. Any other comments on that profound statement? Duffy.
Is that it occurred to me the other day that man uses a lot of things what other species do not use in their life cycle. We use animals, we use plants, we use stones, we use gases, while other species just live and maybe just eat plants or insects or something.
I want to thank you for that. Good.
Human beings are more stupid than goats. They go for trinkets and all kinds of obnoxious. People will buy anything.
I think that's pronounced trinkets.
Trinkets.
Trinkets. Yes. See, both got something on there.
The things that society labeled as gold must not interest an awakened person.
All right. In this case, I was talking obviously about gold being something of real value, of course. I'm sure you got that. All right, I'll read something to you. A bad word or act is done with the mistaken notion that it will return a real reward. And then I give some examples, which I'll read in a minute. But let me repeat that. A bad word or act is done with the mistaken notion that it will return a real reward. Examples. Self-protection as with an angry outburst. Appreciation from others as when giving gifts and favors. Are you connecting this with the original statement? All right. A feeling of personal success as with a financial gain. These are examples of false rewards that we take as real. A sense of power as when threatening someone. Self-convincing as when trying to appear wise before others. I'll read the whole thing once more. A bad word or act is done with a mistaken notion that it will return a real reward. In other words, we don't do evil with a conscious purpose. It's always with a mistaken purpose. A bad word or act is done with a mistaken notion that it will return a real reward. Examples, self-protection as with an angry outburst. Appreciation from others as when giving gifts and favors. A feeling of personal success as with a financial gain. A sense of power as when threatening someone. Self-convincing as when trying to appear wise before others. See, this means a person never really, now follow this, never really says, I am going out and be bad. He doesn't say that. He never says, I'm going to say a bad word and hurt you or do a bad word to hurt you. What he does in his unconscious lost state is saying, if I do this or say that, I will get some kind of a reward. He is under the delusion that whatever he does, if it's murder 1 million people or make a rude comment, that is going to make him feel good, feel secure, feel right. See? Now, because this is mistaken and it's unconscious, it is therefore bad. And it's bad for the other person, and it's bad for the person doing it. What we're trying to say is nobody can consciously do anything bad. You can't be aware and do something evil. It's only because you're in this closed-eye state saying, I had better do this or I'll suffer a loss. I'd better hit you, I'd better bop you in order to protect myself from you verbally or whatever. I'd better have an angry outburst at you in order to restore my feeling of loss that I had when you said you don't like me anymore. You said you don't like me anymore. All right? I feel as if I'm inferior, I'm not worthy, I can't keep anyone. I feel that. And it's very painful. So I'm going to have to do something to restore that sense of loss, that threat. And so I scream and hate you and throw things at you. I'm doing that bad act because I think that bad act is giving me a reward. But the reward I get is the feeling is, see, I'm not so unworthy as you said I am after all. I am this or that. I'm a man of action. I take charge of myself. I'm trying to convince myself that I'm doing something active, right, and real to protect myself. You see? And it all starts because I have this false sense of self to begin with. If I don't have anyone here, I don't have anyone to protect. Isn't that beautiful? A bad word or act is done with a mistaken notion that it will return a real reward. Examples: self-protection, as with an angry outburst; appreciation from others, as when giving gifts and favors, wanting appreciation; a feeling of personal success, as with a financial gain; a sense of power, as when threatening someone; self-convincing, as when trying to appear wise before others. Did we catch it? Yes. Unconsciousness is the badness. Unawareness is the badness. But an unaware bad person doesn't know that he's unaware and bad. Now I'll ask you a question, and you answer this question for me. How are you going to get through to him? Her. How are you going to get through to him that all his snarling that goes on against what goes on in this class, against rightness, decency anywhere, how are you going to get through to him that this snarling is wrong for him and for everyone else? How can you get through to him that he's an all-wrong human being? Please tell me.
Yes, you can.
Leave him alone.
That's it. That's the answer. There's no way. There's no way you can save anyone else. Not your husband, not your wife, not your children. Go ahead, Stella.
You'd be very lucky to save yourself.
Yes, that's okay too.
And the more you save yourself, the less you'll have to do with
save others.
Right.
Yes. Anyone who tries to save other people despises them. And he'll exploit them. He'll use them. Remember the quote we had last week, which I'll rephrase: the social reformer is the most evil of men, because he's trying to get rich by exploiting poverty. He is using the situation, the poor people, for example, in order to get rich himself. I think Frank, Margaret.
I was going to say, the person like that, including myself, have to get completely sick of the suffering.
How sick are you, Frank?
Pretty sick, but I don't know if that's enough yet.
No, it's not enough. I'll tell you something, Frank. I want you to give up your suffering right now. I want you to no longer value it. I want you to no longer be afraid of losing it. I want you to no longer be afraid of losing your suffering. You are afraid of it, and the rest of you too, but I'm talking to Frank now. I will tell you that Frank will come alive if he loses his suffering. You want to come alive in a new way. Do you want to do new life? Then I've given you the proper instructions for it. Margaret.
Yes, getting back to the sick person, I wouldn't waste any time and energy trying to save such a person. But I think I would let him know that there is a way out, the truth, and just let go.
All right. Yes, you could say that and then walk away. Mm-hmm. Don't ever enter into argument. You wouldn't argue, would you, Margaret?
No, I wouldn't.
Yes. All right. And don't you feel bad when they reject the truth? 1, 2.
When someone attacks you verbally, like about going to the class, I feel like I have to defend it.
Why?
Because this person's demanding why I'm going.
How would you like a beautiful secret?
Yes.
I was hoping you'd answer. Because I was going to say something. Write down a sentence. I know you're new here. Or maybe you're not a writer down there. Someone else write down a sentence. I don't have to answer an angry world. You can substitute demanding world. I don't have to answer an angry world. Now, I'm telling you that you don't. Why do you continue to do it? Why do you explain yourself? You're doing something right for you. You're doing something absolutely the most beautiful thing that ever happened to you is coming to this class. You're doing something right for you, and maybe you sense it up to a degree. Do you not? All right. Do you want the truth more than your husband? Do you want the truth more than anything? If you don't, you can begin to want it by remembering what I just told you. You don't have to explain yourself, and don't you do it anymore. Now, that's an order from me. Don't you explain yourself anymore, or the rest of you. You're not required to be weak. God is more important than your stupid husband or wife or parent or friend. Get it through your heads. What do you value most? The friendship of that sickie? You don't have to answer insane people when they demand an explanation from you. I'm telling you, you don't. Don't listen to them. You begin as best you can, I'm talking to all of you, as best you can to put truth first. And the answers will come to you, the answers you don't have now. Did I miss someone? We're off again, huh? Those of you who don't come to this class as often as you could don't love the truth very much. And I know what you're like internally. I know you're very evil inside. Not that the rest of you are good, but I know that if you have come here a few times and don't come back, I know what you are valuing. You're valuing your own sickness and the sickness of this society more than you love decency and truth. All right? Then you pay the price. I know that you're scared. I know you're miserable. And I know you're loaded with hostility, which you think you're cleverly hiding. I know that all lost people are loaded with hostility. I know how much hatred you have in you. And I know, without feeling sorry for you in the wrong way, how much you are suffering from having an internal state of hatred which is suppressed. I know what you're suffering from. And I know that you don't have much brains. Because I know if you had any sense at all, you wouldn't let anything keep you from coming to these classes so you could begin to become the man or woman that you really could be. And I know that you're listening to the voice of the world, of this world of darkness. And I know that that is what you love, because that is what you have the most of in yourself. When you listen to the darkness of the world, you're listening to your own darkness. That darkness is one. When are you going to wake up, some of you? When are you going to have a little bit of sense to understand what's going on in this room? How foolish you are. That you can't value gold because you call your trash gold. You call your trash gold. That's exactly what you're doing. You try to do something practical with your trash. Let's see if that can make you happy. All you can do is try to clean it up, and the wind will blow it around you, and you'll spend the rest of your life trying to clean up the trash. You'll never succeed. You can walk away from it, though, and come to the gold that's in this room. All right, you're on. Questions, comments? Raise your hand first, please. Slow down, please. All right. Yes, please. Bernice.
I think I remember you saying on one of the tapes that what you dislike most about a person you have in yourself. Is this what you mean?
Would you say that again, please?
Well, if a person is very domineering to you, and you don't like that, is this what you have in yourself?
Yes, that's all right to put it that way. You're disliking what you like in yourself. You could, if you didn't have a dominating spirit in yourself, you could see it in the other person without having any negative reaction to it at all. You could simply understand it.
But if you had a domineering mother or father, does that mean you're domineering? If you have, and you hate this about them, you don't like this about them, you have this same thing in you. Is what I mean.
It could be a projection, yes. Why don't you, if you feel that you personally have that in you, why don't you let these truths take it out so that you don't suffer from it? And as long as you have a spirit of domination in yourself, you will be dominated by other people. You understand that? As long as you have you want to dominate others, you will be dominated by others. If you get rid of it yourself, you won't be dominated by others. There's nothing they can do to you. They can do anything they want, and it can't touch you. Isn't that nice? We're in no hurry. Rudy.
Before the truth can help us, Vernon, are we supposed to know that it exists? Or
no, you can't know the truth exists when you're lost. What you can know is that you're lost and know it thoroughly, utterly. And then go into a far worse hell than that. Once you know you're lost, that's still fairly easy. The worst part comes when you see you can't do anything about it. That's total hell. When you both know you are lost and also know there's not a single thing you can do about it. As long as you have the faintest notion that you can save yourself, that you can think your way out, you can feel your way out, act your way out. As long as you have this idea, you will still be lost and stay lost, and you haven't entered the hell fire which will destroy that thought. You see why you must enter fully into hell? Because only the intense heat of it can burn up false notions that I exist as this or that kind of a person, or exist as the kind of person who can save myself. Once you see thoroughly that you can't save yourself, you are saved. Saved from what? Saved from being what you used to be, saved from all your pains, saved from fear of the future, saved from everything that's terrible. You're still trying to save yourself, aren't you? And do you know that ego protection is a part of you trying to save yourself? Do you know that fearing another human being is a part of you trying to save yourself? Do you know that fear of your own insanity is a part of you trying to save yourself? So there's someone there insane? There's no insane person there. There is no insane person inside of you, no matter how insane you are. There is raging insanity, which is presently occupying the castle. That beautiful, marvelous castle is filled with ghosts and bats. Chase out the ghosts and bats. Then the castle will have its proper use. Then it'll be a nice place to live in. Frank.
The frustration is not accepting the fact that I'm a leaf in the wind.
That you can't do anything about it. Don't you see the connection between seeing that you can't do anything about it and simply giving up? Can you see the connection in that and dropping vanity? Dropping vanity? See, you even think that you can placate other people, please other people by behaving in a certain way. For example, if you will be soft-spoken to someone else with a motive of calming them down so that they won't hurt you anymore, that's still a part of you trying to protect. If someone yells at you, encourage them to yell twice as loud. I'm serious. Boy, will you scare the devil when you do that. The devil in both you and the other person. Come on. You understand? No resistance. No resistance. Going with it. Going with it.
The devil is very clever. It won't stop with the first time. It'll try something else and something else and something else. You have to be very conscious to avoid the next trap, the next one, the one right after another.
Oh, yes. We know the devil has 1,000 disguises, but the devil is in back of every one of them. And he's just waiting for you to fall for one out of his 1,000 disguises. If you don't fall for this one, you'll fall for that one. And he'll switch until he gets you. Don't believe in any of them. 1, 2.
What is so confusing and difficult to understand is that we see the anger, the frustration, the hostility, and this is a fact that this is, and yet it's not a reality, and yet the mind tries to think, well, if God is the creator of all this, where is the cause of all of this?
All right, write down a sentence. Anger is a state, but not a reality. You see, we're trying to evolve. We're trying to grow. God is trying to help us to grow from being little children, little confused, angry, impertinent little children. He's trying to get us to grow. God has nothing to do with our anger, etc. But he's saying, if you want to give it up, then you can be with me. When we're lost, like the prodigal sons and daughters that we're away from the Father's house. He's inviting us back home to be like Him. We're developing. We are developing. Remember that, and that'll answer that kind of a question. 1, 2.
You said, like, we got to put ourselves in a position, and the pressure will increase and increase, and the heat, it's really heat.
Yes, it is. It's hell.
There is such a thing as a certain temperature level where we will melt, right?
Not bad. Yes, but we're pretty hard steel, you know. It takes an awful lot of heat.
If I remember correctly, Vernon, didn't you just say that anger is a form of resistance? A lot of these negativities that we keep up inside ourselves is a form of resistance to the truth.
Of course it
and
is.
that if we drop the resistance, nothing remains, no anger, no nothing.
It's as simple as that, sure. If you want to put it that way. Rod.
Today somebody was angry at me, and so I went immediately into a soft tone, a tone different than a conversation tone. So the way I could have made them yell at me, or I should have just continued my conversational tone, and that would have encouraged them to keep yelling. A soft tone was a protection.
Rod, could I ask you a question before I go on? Do you have sense?
No, not much.
Huh? I don't advise you to go down to the zoo, jump inside the tiger's cage, and when he claws at you, say, claw at me more.
I know that.
Don't deal with human animals that way either. Look, please. You understand it was an illustration to give you a general idea. Don't do stupid things. Don't scream back at your wife or husband and then say that man told me to scream back at you. Go ahead.
I was suggesting that if I would have, all I had to do was stay in my conversational tone with them, they could have yelled, but I didn't. I went to a softer tone. And I'm suggesting perhaps that was a protection.
It depends on whether it was or not. It's perfectly permissible to soothe the savage beast, right, so that he won't, do something physical. Maybe you have to use all you know what you're all asking. You're so dumb. I can't believe you're this dumb. But you keep doing the same thing over and over. You want me to tell you to hit the tennis ball. The tennis ball comes over to the right. I say hit the tennis ball to the right. And you want that to be the only swing or when it comes to the right. You can, when you're awake, I told you, you're flexible. You might even scream back or you would keep your mouth shut, but you would know which to do under each circumstances. Don't take these rules mechanically. You're just going to get into trouble. And you wonder, oh, he told me something, I did it. I saw a hand somewhere. Larry.
It's impossible for us to take you with us all day long. We must understand these teachings and try to take those with us.
How many of you run into dumb little mistakes all day long, even in simple things? Simple things. I'll guarantee you can reduce those 99%. There's 1% you can't because they're under different laws. But the mistakes you are making because you're asleep, because you don't have any brains, you can correct those. Get some brains, please.
Is guilt related to watching a image crumble?
Guilt in relation, well, guilt is an image in itself. I'm a terrible, terrible sinner. Guilt is an image itself. I am horrible. I'll bet you that I'm the most evil person in this room. Now I'm unique. You're good, I'm bad. I'm somebody. You're nobody. You're all good. I'm unique.
A feeling's been coming to me that perhaps there is a God. With this feeling has come the realization that I have been a very confirmed and hardened atheist without knowing it.
Yes. Yes, the feeling does indeed, the right feeling develop that there is a God. As Linda disappears to the degree, then that will become stronger and stronger. As Chuck disappears, then it becomes stronger and stronger. You wait and see. It'll happen all by itself. As you become nothing, truth becomes everything. Jim and Amy.
You see, we look at Vernon sitting there teaching, and we can't see where you're not identified with what you're doing, your writing, or whatever. We feel, in other words, we think, well, he's so much in control that you are wrapped up in you, but we can't see that difference.
All right, I understand what you said, yes. Amy.
Vernon, do you ever look forward to anything?
Say that again, please.
Do you ever look forward to anything?
On the practical level, you understand that. Oh, I look forward to 1,000 things. I'm going to work with Joan tomorrow and things. Oh, yes. Nothing else. I have no future at all. I know that. I don't need a future. I don't want a future. You understand that or not?
Yes.
If you better look forward to washing your clothes tomorrow. You look awful coming in here someday. Outside of that sort of thing, why do you want a future? I'll get you now. I want someone to tell me why you want a psychological future. Gordon.
I want to keep Gordon stepping into it.
There you go. Rudy.
I don't possess the now, so
Pardon?
I'm in possession of the now, so I'm forever.
You have to be.
You possess the now, so there's no way you would try to compromise with the future.
Yeah, oh, we understand. Did I miss somebody? I'm sorry.
I can keep my illusions alive by saying I didn't get it now, but I will get it in the future.
That's right. That's right. You can get it now, if you can get it now.
Being dissatisfied with what I am now, I will try to invent what I think I will be tomorrow.
That's good. Yes, that's what we do. I'm unhappy today. Tomorrow I'll be happy. When that happens, you'll never be happy when you get that marriage or get that divorce. If you're happy now, then whichever or whatever happens, you'll be happy because you're not tied to it. Your eye is not tied to that future event. We project the future event and say, when I get this or that happens, then all will be well. The very saying of that is what makes you unhappy right now, because you've divided yourself. I will be happy when. Who's the I that's going to be happy when? There's no one there, but you're talking about a non-existent person as if he or she exists, and as if he or she can perpetuate itself into March, April, May, June, and be happy there. If you're not happy right now, you never will be. Right?
Yeah.
Zena.
You gave a story a couple of classes ago about the people being out in the desert waiting for the magician to come.
Yeah.
And after that story, there was a time I could see I was waiting for the magician to come.
You stop waiting, Zena?
I'm trying.
And it seems to me, maybe I'm all wrong, I don't know, that planning for the future is a great deal of pain and agitation. I've felt this lately. Tremendous pain and agitation when I think of future. I don't want to.
All right, look, let's analyze a little bit. Here I am, miserable, mad all the time, jealous of everybody. Now, you should understand by now that is a time self, right? Built out of my ambitions. Papa told me I had to be a big success and all that. That is my time self. Now, if I take that time self into what I call the future, if I take that time self into it, is there any change? Am I not taking that same self into it? Now, the only way I can be happy in the future is to see that there is no future. That means that I'm going to have to give up this jealous, angry person who's going to be happy next year. It can't be happy next year because this is simply a thought, an idea in time, and thoughts come and go, do they not? This is very complex.
Well, I didn't know how to say it, but that's what I meant because I was taking my terror into that future, and I didn't want it. That was the pain.
All right. Now remember, I and my terror are one. This means that if I'm going to take my I into the future, I'm going to take my terror too, because there's no separating. There is no me. Look, if I'm sitting here now, angry, hateful, vicious, jealous, that is the only me I've got. There's no other me. I don't care if 1 second later, after sitting here, 1 minute later, after sitting here furious, I get a religious book and say, God is saving me. Love is all there is. Everything is marvelous. That is the hateful person saying that. And then I'll go back to my being hateful again. And this is all the time self. What I can do, if I can ever do it, and we've got to do it. What I can do is see the folly of repeating the phonograph record over and over and over of any kind of love and peace or hatred and anger, because this is me in time. If I get, Frank, to the point where the hell is beginning to burn me, and I have the courage to go deeper into it instead of walk out of it where the temperature gets cooler, if I have the courage in this crisis of going deeper into it instead of going, which is escapism, going to the cooler, I will be burned up. Right? That's what you said. That was good. I will be melted down. I'll be melted down. Now look, I have said this to you. I have gone as far as I can go in words. Now guess who has to take the words, the atmosphere in this room, and do it individually. But you know, don't come on now. I know it. I know that you feel that this is true and right.
Yes.
Do it.
So when you get to that point, there's you got to be your own teacher and your own disciple.
That helps a lot. Yes.
Our resistance keeps us from understanding what you're saying and keeps us confused so that we can't really do it when we're there, when we're in it.
All right. One of the 1,000 masks that the devil has is the mask of confusion. Do you know that confusion can be one of your refuges?
Yes.
Is that a plural? You can now excuse yourself. Well, I'm so confused. I come here and I read the books. You're a big phony. I know that you've got a devil's mask on, hiding behind that confusion. God does not say you must remain in confusion. You say it because you have evil little vanity value into it to keep you. You're the center of your own drama. I'm confused. Help me, please, minister or psychiatrist or boss or anybody, friend, husband. Help me. I'm confused. Applaud your act sometime. You know what phonies we are? Huh? You would rather be confused than be clear because you don't want to give up your confusion, which is you, and the only you've got. I saw a hand somewhere.
we get a great deal more vibration out of being confused than we do out of doing these little exercises you've given us, like being aware when we pick up the dish towel.
Yes, there's a lot of false excitement and confusion. And you can certainly relieve yourself of responsibility, which shows how lazy we are, when I say, I'm just too confused to get it, or I'm too dumb to get it. This is the self-condemnation we talked about. Every time you call yourself stupid, you're bragging. You're saying, I'm someone. You're not someone, you're no one. Somebody.
And the criminal hides in confusion.
Say that again.
The criminal hides in confusion.
Yes, the criminal in us hides in its own confusion. And confusion will always have pretense, won't it, that it's not confused. For exterior show, for example, the politician who pretends that his bill is going to solve the problems, it'll only make them worse. But he's getting paid for pretending that he's not confused. So as to deceive everybody who's paying his salary, he'll keep up the act, wrecking the stupid people who vote him into office, who admire him, who raise his pay every year. This is not going to change. It's going to get worse. Society is not going to get better.
How can it? When I think of how I lived before I came here, it always repeated itself. There was nothing else, not a new idea how to break out of this circle. So that society is just caught in the circle.
Have you broken the pattern that much?
That much.
Okay. You can break it that much.
When we get the urge to escape from a certain painful situation, at that point, if we can just remember to stay with it, at that point.
Yes, and an aid to that, Frank, would be the following. You're deep in the jungle, and you're falling into the marshes, and the tigers attack you, and the insects swarm around you, and it's dark, and it's cold, and you're hungry, and you start to walk out a little bit. You find the faint trail, and you begin to walk out, and there's a little less insects and a little less marshes, and you're in a little bit better position. Do you want to go back to where you were before? Do you want to go back to where it was triply horrible than where you are now? Remember where you are, and don't love where you were, I should say. Don't love where you were. See the horror of it. Can't you see how you suffered in the heart of the jungle? You don't want to go back. Instead, you want to do the really hard thing. You know it's a long road out, but how stupid to just sit down and bawl or to go back. Let's be men and let's be women and let's start to fight our way out of it. Remember I told you once, remember your pain. You forget your pain. You know that marriage you had, it was very painful, and you thought the next one was going to be better. It wasn't. Remember the pain before you say I do again. Maybe you'll say I don't. Good night.